Well, well, well. As many suspected, Trump's alleged ceasefire deal was a total disaster and has been exposed for being illegitimate. Let me explain to you in this video why that's the case. I have a few clips for you guys, and then we'll break down what this means at the very end. So let's watch the first clip. In this first clip, Trump himself admits that his alleged ceasefire deal was weak and ineffective. And at the end of this clip, you can see he is thoroughly embarrassed that Iran and Israel kept attacking each other hours after Trump had announced that there was a ceasefire deal. Let's watch this and then we'll break it down.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to the peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on.
He just admitted here that after this deal was made, Israel engaged in its largest attack yet on Iranian soil. And of course, Iran responded with missiles of their own. And Trump is pissed because Iran and Israel are making him look like a pathetic liar. Because Trump announced, oh, there's the ceasefire deal. But yet, no, there wasn't. Both sides kept attacking.
So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Trump doesn't drop the F-bomb very often, so you know he's angry here. You know why he's angry? Because Iran and Israel, like I said, kept on firing missiles at each other hours after Trump announced this ceasefire deal. They made him look like a liar. They made him look like a weak leader because he is both of those things. It was a fake ceasefire from the start, just like the deal made between Hamas and Israel. It was made up in order to frame Hamas for violating a deal that was never made, so it can give the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, an excuse to further terrorize and ethnically cleanse the rest of Gaza. If you don't remember this, it was just a couple days into his presidency, I believe, Trump announced a fake ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. It was a fake deal so that Trump and Israel could frame Hamas for violating the ceasefire, which would justify lessening the guardrails when it came to annexing and ethnically cleansing the entirety of Gaza. The same thing is happening right now with Iran. Now, this might change. Maybe as I post this, maybe new reports come out, but neither governments of Israel or Iran have officially declared a ceasefire deal has been made. Only Trump has done that, as of right now. I wonder if this is another one of those fake deals where they lie about there being a true ceasefire. Then Iran and Israel continue their attacks, and the Israeli and US propaganda machine frames it as Iran breaking the ceasefire deal, a deal that never happened. Like I said, this is literally the exact same thing that happened between Israel and Hamas. And if you know history, Israel is infamous for breaking ceasefire agreements. It's kind of their thing. Here is proof of that claim that this fake ceasefire deal was announced so that they could frame Iran for violating a deal that never happened, which would greenlight continuing to bomb and to attack the country. The official IDF Twitter account posted early this morning, hours into this alleged ceasefire deal, and as both nations, Israel and Iran, were still attacking each other, in light of the severe violation of the ceasefire carried out by the Iranian regime, we will respond with force, says the chief of the general staff. It's funny that Israel is blaming Iran for breaking this ceasefire deal, when Trump himself announced that he is really pissed with Israel for violating the deal. He said both violated, but yet Israel is not taking responsibility at all. Again, Israel is just trying to frame this in a way that will get Trump to green light more attacks on Iran and to convince Trump that he needs to bring the US fully into this war because Iran cannot be trusted. Here's another reason why I believe that this ceasefire agreement is completely fabricated. It's an illusion. Here's why. Trump just came out and made a statement basically exposing the true plans for this war. Trump stated that this war is about regime change. It's not about protecting Israel. It's not about preventing Iran from getting nukes. It's about regime change, because that's what Israel wants for Iran. Israel wants new leadership for Iran because they are a threat to Israeli dominance. But it needs the United States' help in achieving that. That's why Netanyahu convinced Trump to order the US military to bomb 3 Iranian nuclear sites, even though there was zero evidence that they were building a nuclear weapon. They used nuclear technology for energy. Here's Trump's statement. He said, "It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Make Iran great again." That is a complete mask-off moment, exposing the true plans for this war. So if regime change is the end goal, why even do a ceasefire? Why even pretend to do a ceasefire? It's because it's just a distraction from the bigger impending war that is soon to commence. Here's a shocker. Not really. US intelligence has just stated that these bombs, the bombings of Iran's nuclear sites that the United States did not completely annihilate Iran's nuclear program like they had stated. In fact, it did very little damage. Here again is another clear example of Trump and his lackeys just straight up lying about the effectiveness. This report comes from CNN. And before you say, oh, it's CNN, you can't trust CNN, let me just say, has CNN gotten things wrong in the past? Of course, every news organization does. Has Fox News? Certainly. MSNBC? Yep. But CNN is the largest news organization in the world. There is something called journalistic integrity, a rigorous process that a story goes through before being published. There is something called journalistic integrity where in order to publish a story at one of these large organizations, there is a rigorous process in which certain details of the story have to be verified before it can be published. Now, is every claim true in every story? No. That's why CNN gets things wrong sometimes. So does Fox, so does MSNBC, everyone does. If this report right here turns out not to be true, I will be the first one to say that. I will come out and make another video saying, this report that I just made a video about, actually, it's not verifiable, but we have to talk about it because it's trending on Twitter right now, and this could change the whole story. It says, exclusive, early US intel assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites, sources say. The US military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months, according to an early US intelligence assessment that was described by 7 people briefed on it. The assessment, which has not been previously reported, was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Pentagon's intelligence arm. It is based on a battle damage assessment conducted by the US Central Command in the aftermath of the US strikes, one of the sources said. Here's the caveat. The analysis of the damage of the sites and the impact of the strikes on Iran's nuclear ambitions is ongoing and could change as more intelligence becomes available, but the early findings are at odds. They are at odds with President Donald Trump's repeated claims that the strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. 2 of the people familiar with the assessment said Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium was not destroyed. One of the people said the centrifuges are largely intact. Another source said that the intelligence assessed enriched uranium was moved out of the sites prior to the US strikes. The White House acknowledged the existence of the assessment, but of course they disagreed with it. Pete Hegseth told CNN, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. That's bullshit. There's more to the report that you can go and read. I'm going to put the link to that article in the description of this video. But let me just summarize here and make the full case that Donald Trump's alleged ceasefire deal is pathetic and illegitimate because of the bigger picture plan for regime change. And let me explain. Late yesterday, Trump announced that there was a ceasefire deal made between Iran and Israel, and that ceasefire would start at a specific time. However, several hours after that ceasefire was to start, both Iran and Israel were still bombing each other. That's why early this morning, we saw that video that I played where Trump dropped the F-bomb, pissed with both Iran and Israel for making him look like a weak leader. Trump came out with this pompous language, pretending to be this peacemaker, but then Israel and Iran either completely ignored the ceasefire, or there was never a deal made. Maybe there were talks of a deal being made, but nothing was ever agreed upon. So Trump's anger from this morning perfectly illustrates how weak of a leader he is. He wasn't able to get either of these countries to abide by whatever deal he thought he made. And like I said earlier, let's for the sake of argument say that there was some sort of agreement made. Israel has a history of completely disrespecting and disregarding ceasefire deals anyway. They were never going to listen to Trump's alleged ceasefire. They make the rules. They dictate Trump's decisions. That's probably part of the reason why he was so pissed this morning and dropping the F-bomb on TV, because he realized that he is not in control. Trump is not in control here at all. We also talked about how Trump came out and made a statement basically exposing the true plans for this war, this regime change war. That's the bigger picture here. The US bombing Iran's nuclear sites is not about preventing Iran from getting a nuke, because our own intelligence says that there was zero evidence that Iran had nuclear weapons. And it's also not about protecting Israel. A strong Iran is a threat to Israeli dominance. And because Israel has Donald Trump on a leash like a dog and will do anything that Bibi Netanyahu says, of course we're going to help them initiate this regime change war that Netanyahu wants so badly. So this ceasefire agreement that was either in the works or is being lied to that it was made is just a distraction from the bigger impending war of regime change in Iran. And also, like I mentioned, early reports have been saying that these attacks on Iranian nuclear sites were not as effective as Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are claiming they are. Our own intelligence is saying this. They're claiming that bombing these nuclear sites are only setting back the Iranians months. But months away from what? Because there was zero evidence that they were building a nuke. They have nuclear technology, but like I said, it's for energy. So, final word. Trump is a liar. He's pathetic. He's a weak leader. Clearly, Iran and Israel do not respect Donald Trump in the way that he thinks everyone does. Late yesterday, he announced that there was a ceasefire deal, and in a historically embarrassing moment, Israel and Iran kept on attacking each other after Trump announced it. After the alleged ceasefire was supposed to go into place. Trump looked weak and ineffective, which was, in my opinion, a major factor in his response to the reporter when he dropped that F-bomb saying that he's pissed at both countries right now because they embarrassed him, didn't they? So yeah, there you have it. Thanks for watching. If you don't mind clicking the subscribe button, my goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm getting pretty close. Like the video if you found this informative, or dislike it if you don't like it. Or leave a comment too. How about that? Leave a positive or a negative. Either way, it helps me out. So yeah, thanks.